Ladies and gentlemen, I am Steve from Tweaktown. I am the CPU, motherboard, and chipset editor. Today I'm going to be deliding a Skylake CPU in the delid tool. This delid tool is designed so you can delid with a vise. I'm using a C-clamp because I don't have a table vise in here. There's a tight fit, so there's a hole in the back that you can use to leverage the plastic out. Basically, you have the CPU, and the CPU sits inside the tool. There are little notches here for the IHS. So you see the IHS has these little notches on either side. They fit perfectly with the plastic. This is a Haswell top that I had already delided this Haswell CPU. I've delided one Haswell CPU and 3 Skylake CPUs already, and I'm going to delid this 6600K here. So basically, you put the CPU down and then it slides the PCB forward in a controlled method. I like to look at this as the controlled vise method because this PCB on Skylake is a little thin. Normal vise method might not work well because you don't want to crack the PCB, and normal vise method puts angled pressure on the PCB. This doesn't put an angled pressure on the PCB. In fact, it keeps the PCB flush with the edges. So you want everything to be tight. You need to print this tool. If you're going to print it, you need to print it with high infill. That means 50 to 90% infill. I believe this model right here is 50% infill, which is quite high. Most prints are 10 to 20 to 30% infill. 50% infill takes some time. This is printed with thick shells, and it's printed at 0.1 millimeter layer height. So we basically undo the C-clamp a little bit so we can fit this in. And it's much better to use a vise for this. And you're asking, why would you need the 3D printed tool if you're going to use a vise? And that's because this 3D printed tool controls the force that goes into the CPU. I believe that's enough. Yep. I like to do it this way because this clamp it centralizes the pressure, and I believe this base is much better to disperse the pressure and the force rather than this straight edge. So let's do it. You want to go very slowly, and we're going to hear a pop. This pop is the glue bond being broken. So the pressure gets quite intense. That glue they use is quite strong. So let's go slowly. Okay, things are tight. Nope, it's not centered. You want to really center in the vise or the clamp. One more time. I'm going to hold it like this and try to center it as I go. You can actually hold it with your hand like this and then tighten the clamp. It does work, and that's pretty weird. So I'm going a little slow, and right now there's a lot of pressure on the CPU itself. A little bit more pressure, holding it in place. Still holding it in place. I'm going to go for some more pressure. A little bit more pressure. Okay, there's a lot of pressure on the CPU right now, and you can wait a few seconds. Ooh, it did it itself. If you put enough pressure on it, it'll do it itself. So you heard that pop. It was a beautiful pop. That was an interesting way. So now this is pretty tight. To remove the plastic, there's a hole on the back. You leverage it out with a screwdriver or something because your hands won't be able to grab it out. One more. There we go. So we've just delided the CPU. PCB comes off. Perfect delid every time. PCB is not damaged at all. It is flat. There's no bending, nothing. The core is fine. You want to clean up this dark stuff. Let me turn one of these lights on. Sorry about that. Okay, I hope you guys can see better. And I'm going to zoom in here so you can see how everything went. So, as you see, it basically took the PCB and shifted it forward. Slowly and slowly, it shifted it forward, and the PCB shifts forward, and when the PCB is shifted forward, obviously it's going to be removed from the IHS. It's actually quite an ingenious method. I'm not sure who came up with it, but you see the PCB is nice, it's fine. Yeah, so this, I can just wipe this off with my hand. I really shouldn't do that. I have some paper towel over here. And you see the core is beautiful. Not cracked, nothing. PCB is fine. Remove the IHS. You basically do want to remount the IHS. You want to replace this TIM with something like GC Extreme. Try not to use something like IC7 Diamond because the diamond in there will scratch the tip, the top. I personally actually like using IC7 Diamond, but not on the IHS because not on the die, because the die is quite fragile and you don't want anything scratching into it, and IC7 Diamond actually does scratch into the IHS. So you want to use something like GC Extreme. I actually have some here. GC Extreme is a very good thermal paste used for extreme overclocking, or you can use something like Liquid Pro. I bought a syringe of this. It's basically like liquid metal, and it applies quite well, and you let it cure. Actually, you know what? I'll show you, well, not this video, but you want to get rid of this gasket glue around and here, because if you're going to re-glue it with something, you can use liquid electrical tape if you want. I would cover up these little pads if you're going to use something conductive, such as Liquid Pro. Liquid Pro is conductive, so you want to make sure it's not going to short out any of these little pads that are available on the top. And when you're cleaning off this gasket glue, be very careful not to damage the PCB. Okay? Thank you for watching. And please make sure to leave any comments on my guide. And yeah, keep visiting Tweaktown. Thanks.